Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi my wonderful sweet babies, it's Destined Choice and you're watching Choice TV. So for today's video, I really want to talk about this video about this black woman who basically went on her channel to talk about how black women need to be held accountable for destroying the black community.
Abortion, number one, abortion is a choice. Yes, abortion is a choice, like lying, cheating, and stealing are a choice. Abortion is a choice and a legal right, like discriminating against black people during Jim Crow era was a choice and a legal right. Like discriminating against Jewish people during the Holocaust was a choice and a legal right. This new definition of Black America that comes from baby mama, baby daddy culture is not morally upright the way old school Black America was. Black Americans nowadays are not oppressed. It's just that, again, it's offensive to say it out loud. Black girls like having babies with bums instead of getting married first and then having a baby and building a legacy and building generational wealth and building a family. Black girls like to do it the other way around. They get pregnant and then they try to pressure the dad into marrying them. And that's how I know that they understand the value of the nuclear family. Once they get pregnant out of wedlock, then they try to pressure their baby's dad into marrying them. You're supposed to have that revelation about the nuclear family first. That's why you get married first and then you have a baby. Like I mentioned in a previous video, babies are a permanent commitment. Marriage is a permanent commitment. They go together. Babies are a permanent commitment. Boyfriend and girlfriend situations are temporary. Babies are a permanent commitment. One night stands are temporary. They don't go together. Getting married does not guarantee that the husband will stay, but husbands don't leave because of the baby. That I can tell you. They might leave for another reason. Husbands do not leave because of the baby, so getting pregnant by your husband is still the superior option to getting pregnant by a boyfriend or a one-night stand, and I wish women would learn this lesson. Other races need to learn this lesson too, particularly the women in my community. I wish people would get smarter and learn this lesson, because so many women have gotten knocked up by a boyfriend and they're like, well, once the baby came, he changed his mind. If he didn't marry you, he was never ready for commitment, or you didn't marry him and you weren't ready for commitment. Like I said, black girls, they absolutely love getting pregnant by thugs, and then they go on Facebook complaining about how they do everything by themselves, about how he doesn't help them, and then they go and get pregnant again. Most of the time it's by another guy, then they go and have another baby, then they go and have another one, and we all know the statistics on fatherlessness. So, like I said, black girls love getting pregnant by thugs, and black men love spreading their seed around with different women. So it's like black men and black women, they love bringing their kids into broken homes, but then everybody goes and blames white people when white people's children are excelling past black people's children. But the majority of white people don't raise their kids in broken homes. It's like this is a giant pink elephant in a room that's directly in front of all of us, and yet all of us are pretending like we don't see it. Only the minority of white people bring their children into broken homes. Only like 20% of white kids are born in broken homes. 80% of them are born and raised in two-parent homes because white people have enough sense not to raise their children in broken environments. And for some reason, my community does not have that same sense. It's just the most unbelievable thing. But then everybody acts surprised when white children are excelling past black children. And it's like, well, why do you think that is? White people are not raising their kids in broken homes. When you are born and raised in a one-parent home, you're more likely to end up in poverty. So the group that did the right thing is being accused of holding back the group that's doing the wrong thing. That is like incredibly stupid and doesn't make any sense.
And let me just say that I don't really necessarily agree with her approach about it because I feel like it was a little bit too far-fetched, but I really want to elaborate on it, and I also want to speak on the whole conversation surrounding abortion. Now, you guys know my thoughts on abortion. I'm not pro-life, and I'm not pro-choice. I'm pro-kill that thing. Because at the end of the day, abortion is what it is, and abortion is problematic as a whole. But at the end of the day, women have every right to choose what the fuck they want to do with their body. At the end of the day, people make it seem like when it comes to abortion, people use it as birth control. Like, oh, I just sucked and fucked 10 dicks, so you know what, fuck it, why not? I'll just get an abortion. When in reality, that's not even the truth. Most women usually use abortion as their last result because they feel as though that they can't do it or because they can't afford it. Which I completely get and I completely understand. And like I always say for everyone that's pro-life, you're pro-life now, But when the kids are here, you don't give a fuck. People say that they're pro-life and the child deserves to live, but when the child's here, you complain about taxes going up to support all these damn kids moving into your neighborhood. So at the end of the day, I'm pro-kill that thing. I'm pro-do what the fuck you want. I'm pro... I don't give a fuck. I really don't care about abortion, but I do feel as though that abortion is a necessary evil. Is it murder? Absolutely it's murder, but it's a necessary evil, and I feel like it needs to stick around. So back to what she was saying. So she basically said that black women getting a lot of the abortions statistically, because if you guys didn't know, black women make up majority of like the biggest minority in America, and a lot of them do get the most abortions aside from white women, but they make up the biggest minority that gets abortions. After them is the Hispanic community, and then the Asian community is like in the 1% And unfortunately, I will say, abortion is problematic overall, and it is built off of racism, so I can see why a lot of black people don't like it or aren't for it. Because if you guys didn't know, Planned Parenthood was discovered and founded by Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger was a eugenics, and she was a disgusting, racist, ugly old white bitch. Because she really was. She was a racist. She basically was able to get abortion passed because she was able to say that abortion is a great way to get rid of weeds and bad weeds, and she used the word weeds to describe black people who are thugs and criminals and in poverty. And she felt as though that women who are in poverty, which at the time Jim Crow was around, so at the time a lot of black people were in poverty, she used that as an excuse as to say, why put these women through that? Why put them through that? Why don't we just let them have access to abortion? So she put abortion clinics in places like Harlem and in many places a part of the South. So I understand how she was fucking racist and how she was problematic, because abortion really was built off the basis of racism and exterminating the black race. Not to mention, she also created a movement called the Negro Project, which was basically meant to target African Americans because she wanted to make sure that they had access to birth control, aka abortion, because she wanted them to be able to escape poverty and not have to bring children in a world filled with hatred and poverty. And of course, y'all know her infamous quote when she said, "We do not want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." Yes, she said this, and it's confirmed that she said this for her interview with the New York Times in the 1930s. And the bitch is highly celebrated with her old, ugly, crusty ass. And she's so celebrated to the point where there's actual statues of her in museums. Yup. This is America. Because statistically, over 40 million black babies have been aborted since the 1970s. And that's pretty unfortunate, but you know, what is what it is. Like I always say, are you going to help raise these fucking cockhead babies? Because if you're not going to help raise these damn kids, then it ain't that fucking serious at the end of the day. So basically what she said in her video was she feels as though that a lot of people value nuclear families, but a lot of people don't want to put the time and effort into building a family. People want the kid and the baby in the baby first, and then afterwards they want to get married and they want to go down the wrong path and force the baby daddy to marry them. And she has a good point. Because if you guys don't realize this, it's very much true that in a lot of cases, a lot of people are more so seeing baby mamas rather than marriages and wives. I guarantee you everyone watching this can name more baby mamas than they can name wives. And you can name more baby daddies than you can name husbands. And unfortunately, kids are a deal breaker for a lot of people because kids can really ruin people's lives. And at the end of the day, I feel like a kid can actually make or break your relationship. But at the same time, that's why I always say that the reason I'm for abortion is because I don't feel like it's necessary to force a woman to have a child and then have to get her life together. Because some women have to go to college, even though they could do both. And some women have to actually pursue their life and get to know who they are. And I don't want no bum-ass dude or some bum-ass woman having a kid, bringing a kid to the world and bringing that kid into some fucked up environment. I mean, Margaret Sanger might have been problematic, but when she said shit like this back in the day...
Do you believe in sin? When I say believe, I don't mean believe in committing sin. Do you believe there is such a thing as sin?
Well, I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born.
She really did have a point. So I understand what she was saying, and I understand what this woman was saying. She did have a very justified point. However, I feel like she was more so making it like a black woman issue, when in reality, it could be seen as a woman issue in general. I feel like a lot of women don't realize this, but abortion sometimes is the last resort, and a lot of people don't want to get abortions. People make it seem like people are having fun and skipping down to the clinic like, yeah, I'm going to kill my baby. Even though there are some bitches who really be on that shit.
When I say aborted, you say fetuses aborted. Fetuses aborted. Fetuses. I had an abortion.
What does this mean? Is this a baby being eaten by a crocodile?
Abortion is something that a lot of people don't think as, oh, this is amazing, I can't wait to get one. No, it's something that a lot of people have an issue with. A lot of people actually have regret and actually deal with depression after getting an abortion. Abortion really fucks a lot of people up. And a lot of people also say that you can't be pro-black and for abortion. And if you're for abortion and you're black, then obviously you hate black people, because abortion has actually killed more black people than any other thing in history.
Are you pro-choice? I am pro-choice. It's easy to be pro-choice because you're not the one being killed. That's
right.
all I have to say.
Oh, yeah. What do you got to say to that?
That's all I have to say.
Hey, were you pro-choice about slavery, too? Because that was a privacy issue back in the 1800s. You pro-choice about that?
You think slavery and abortion are equivalent?
Pro-choice about slavery? Dred Scott, all that?
I don't understand your point.
Good job.
Was I pro-choice about slavery? I just wonder why you keep injecting race into the conversation.
Because we like black babies. Black babies matter to us, but apparently not to you. And you don't care one bit because you're pro-choice. You stand beside those folks. Good job. Good job. You're a disgrace to your race. You too, bro.
Planned Parenthood has also been called out for posting up billboards that target black women, saying things like, black women take care of their families by taking care of themselves. Abortion is self-care. Hashtag trust black women. And then Planned Parenthood has also been called out for retweeting things like this, saying, if you're a black woman in America, it's statistically safer to have an abortion than to carry a pregnancy to term or give birth. Hashtag scary stats.
Sign it right here. Nobody is forcing you to have this done. You do have 48 hours to change your mind. We did an ultrasound to find out how far along you are. You are less than 19 weeks pregnant.
Are you a religious person?
I try to be.
What does your religious understanding say to you about abortion?
I know that God don't want this for me, but I did pray on it. I just want him to understand that I feel like I should go through with it. Mm-hmm. I just want him to understand, and I don't want him to be upset with me, because if I do it.
10 years from now, what I would want for you is that you be able to say, you know what, that was a jacked up situation, but if I had to do it all over again, I'd make the same decision, because I made the best decision I could make. And that way you don't have to second guess yourself. And nobody who's walking in your shoes can question you, because they're not in your shoes.
I'm not a good person at all. I just feel like a bad person, a bad female.
Okay, the only rule I'm going to give you is you may not say I'm not a good person anymore, because that is not the case. An unintended pregnancy is an unintended pregnancy. That's all it is. That's all it is.
So I respect people who are pro-life, and I respect people who are pro-choice. But this woman definitely did make a lot of justified points, and I feel as though that you can't just dismiss what she said with, oh, she's ignorant, oh, she's insensitive. Because even though the truth might be hard to swallow, it does need to be said sometimes, because people just need to hear it. So I understand why a lot of people say things like, oh, how can Black Lives Matter, but what about the black babies? Because that is a very good point. And that was one of the first things that actually made me start questioning the Black Lives Matter movement, where people would say, what about black babies? And then I was like, ooh, good point. Because if you guys notice that, we're in the midst of like this huge, we're in some really crazy times right now. And let me just say that I cannot wait for the fucking election to be over, because I'm fucking overwhelmed and I'm tired of seeing these fucking 30-second political ads. But overall, I see why a lot of people say things like, when it comes to abortion, it's racist. And if you want to tear down statues, because if you didn't know, a lot of people have been tearing down statues of a lot of known racists and a lot of known pedophiles and a lot of known people who hated black people, like Christopher Columbus, George Washington, and so many other U.S. presidents, which I completely understand. At the end of the day, I personally don't give a fuck about the statues. A statue is just a statue. If you want to tear that shit down, I don't give a fuck. But when it comes to people like Margaret Sanger, I do get what people say when pro-life people say that you have to keep the same energy, because her whole legacy was built off the basis of racism. She was able to get abortion Roe v. Wade passed because of eliminating the black race. Now, when it comes to Planned Parenthood, let's be very clear that Planned Parenthood doesn't just do abortions. They do other things too, like provide health care and provide checkups for a lot of women. But when it comes to abortion, they make hundreds of millions of dollars off of it, like every decade. Like every decade, they get millions of funding for abortions. And I get it, because Angela Stanton did say it the best. instead of actually trying to like kill the babies, why don't we actually put mothers on the right path in the right direction? Give them money, give them funding, and help them with the funding we give Planned Parenthood so they can raise their damn kids. I'm definitely not one of those people who are going to sit up here and say, well, abortion is sales. At the end of the day, it's just a clump of sales, because that actually makes me cringe whenever I hear people who say that they're pro-choice say, it's just sales. Stop denying it. It is what it is. Call it what it is. It's not just sales or just an embryo. It technically really is a fetus of life. You know, when it comes to foster care, a lot of people don't realize that when kids get to a certain age, a lot of kids don't get adopted. The literal cutoff age for a lot of kids to get adopted is probably like around 11 years old. Once a kid hits like 11 years old, they're least likely to get adopted because a lot of parents don't want their asses. So once a kid really ages out, they age out. And they age out to a point where a lot of parents don't want them. And eventually, when they turn like 19 years old, they get thrown out because at that point, you know, they're too old to even stay there, and they need to fill up the bed and get rid of the adults that are there for too long. So you have to get up on your feet. You got to figure out how to get a job. You need a support system. It's just a lot of shit that comes into play when it comes to throwing your kids into foster care. So not everyone realistically just wants to have the baby and throw it into foster care. And then what happens when that baby grows older and they want to come back and realize that you didn't want them? You know, a lot of people don't want to deal with that kind of shit. So at the end of the day, I know people are going to say, then don't have sex, bitch. The real problem is this. We need to be addressing fertility in school. Like, I know a lot of people say that if you don't want to get pregnant, just don't have sex when you're ovulating, which is crazy because a lot of women, by the time they reach a certain age, don't even know these things. And also, when it comes to things like birth control isn't even something that's learned in sex ed most of the times. And fertility classes should be like teach the kids. Like, we should be teaching kids at a young age fertility classes so that way they learn and understand how to avoid getting pregnant, how to understand contraception. But unfortunately, a lot of schools don't give a fuck because they realistically do want you to kill your baby. And plus, when it comes to abortion, there are a lot of nasty things intertwined with it, because if y'all didn't know, with aborted fetuses, not only do they, in some cases, if you take a pill, you can eliminate the pregnancy. But if you're too far along, like 5, 6, 7 months, they have to sometimes physically take the baby out of you in most cases.
Inch wide, and there are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. The abortionist uses this clamp to grasp an arm or leg. Once he has a firm grip, the abortionist pulls hard in order to tear the limb from the baby's body. One by one, the rest of the limbs are removed, along with the intestines, the spine, and the heart and lungs. Usually the most difficult part of the procedure is extracting the baby's head, which is about the size of a large plum at 20 weeks. The head is grasped and crushed. The abortionist knows he has crushed the skull when a white substance comes out of the cervix. This was the baby's brains. The abortionist then removes skull pieces. He removes the placenta and any leftover parts of the baby with a curette, scraping the lining of the uterus for any remaining tissue. The abortionist then collects the baby parts and reassembles them to make sure that there are 2 arms, 2 legs, and all the pieces.
And in some cases, they can actually donate some of the intestines and the organs that are inside of it. It's crazy.
Were secretly recorded and released by members of an anti-abortion group called the Center for Medical Progress.
Are you looking at 8 and 9 week specimens or only second trimester specimens?
Group members, posing as potential buyers of fetal tissue for medical research, allege that employees of Planned Parenthood, a government-funded women's healthcare organization that also performs abortions, discuss the selling of baby parts with them. While it is illegal to profit from tissue donations in the U.S., organizations may provide fetal tissue for medical research if the mother gives her consent.
I'm pro do what the fuck you want because I don't give a fuck because I'm not going to be the one helping you raise that damn kid. So women should be able to have the right to do what the fuck they want and let that be on the woman's conscience. If she doesn't agree with it or if she genuinely feels like it's evil and she knows it's evil, let her deal with it. At the end of the day, if one wants to go in there after sucking in fucking like 8, 10, 50 million dicks and she wants to skip me down to the fucking abortion clinic, then let her do it. Because at the end of the day, it's her body and her choice. Yes, there's another body in her body, but it's her choice. So let her have that choice. So I understand what her approach was when it comes to the whole narrative of, you know, black women are a big part of the issue why the community is so damaged. I mean, I get where she was coming from, but I don't really agree with her delivery. I feel like she more so essentialized things and made it seem like a lot of black women put themselves in these situations purposely, which don't get me wrong, a lot of them do. I feel like in a lot of cases, sometimes you might be with someone, love someone, and then you have the baby and then they dip on you. This is a question I have for dog owners. I understand abortion is problematic, but this was something that's someone said this to me, and this actually changed my outlook on abortion, because at first I was one of those people who said, it's just sales, it's not that serious. But then somebody said, would you let your dog get an abortion? Because legally, this is a question for dog owners. Legally, did you know that your dog can actually get an abortion? It's actually called this. And would you get your dog an abortion? And in most cases, people usually say, why would I do that? Those are innocent puppies. And then people say, well, apply that same energy to human beings. You don't care when women get abortions, but you would care if your dog got an abortion. But me personally, I wouldn't give a fuck. Who gonna raise them damn puppies? Not me. Fuck them damn dogs. Let me stop. I'm probably gonna go to hell for this video because, people aren't ready for the truth. And I feel like I'm very raw with things, and I'm way too damn blunt when it comes to my delivery on things. But I also have to say, before I even exit, that this woman has a very justified point. If people were actually getting married first, or getting to know each other for like 3, 4, 5 years, and then having kids later, then it would be all good. But unfortunately, we live in a society where people would literally have kids within being with somebody within 3, 4, 5 months, which isn't a good idea. If you're not with somebody for at least like a year, I personally don't think you should be having a kid with someone, because at the end of the day, I get that it doesn't matter how long you've been with somebody, but it helps if you've been with somebody long enough before you have a child. You build something with somebody, you make sure they have their finances together, you have your finances together, you put your money together, you guys get a home together, or if you guys don't get a home together, get a nice little apartment, have a nice savings, have an established income, because if you don't have your shit together, you should not be having kids. And if you don't have your shit together, why the fuck would you want to have a kid with someone who doesn't have their shit together as well? It doesn't make any sense. And that's why I'm for abortion. There's too many women out here who accidentally get pregnant, and then they're already struggling. They're working paycheck to paycheck. The dude is a whole bum, smoking weed all the fucking time, not doing nothing with his fucking life. A whole bum. Probably don't even want to see the fucking kids. Probably don't even want the damn baby. But at the same time, these are the same people who put these kids through poverty. And that's why I always say that people could realistically break the struggles of poverty and shit if they just didn't have kids, just like that. Like, stop bringing kids into fucked up situations or situations that aren't built. I would never want like a pimp and a serial killer to have a whole fucking child together. Like, can you imagine the trauma the child has to go through? That just is what it is. So let women have the fucking choice. I understand where she was coming from. And yes, even though black women do make up the most minority that does get abortions, it is what it is. So yeah, I'm probably going to get dragged to filth for this video. And even though a lot of people think that I'm very conservative, I'm not that conservative. I'm very much open-minded when it comes to a lot of these things. And I do feel as though that I'm going to call a spade, but I'm also going to have to play devil's advocate. But that was that for this video. People should like, comment, and subscribe. People should check out my Patreon if you guys are interested. People should check out my podcast on all streaming platforms. And yeah, and that's that. Choice out this bitch.
Bright light, a beautiful sea. I choose to be happy. You and I would wait like diamonds in the sky. What house, a vision of ecstasy. What are we like diamonds in the sky? Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond. Oh, yeah. Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond. You're beautiful like diamonds in the sky. Thank you. Thank you.